Hey everybody, Gormos here with some more Warthunder Simulator Battle gameplay. So, last week I got to fly a few more events. The first one was one of the Berlin events that were available, and I was flying a P-51 Mustang. Now that one was the first time I saw an alternate history event, as it was Allies versus USSR over Berlin. That is of course something that many people are a bit opposed to, having those kind of alternate history events in simulator mode. But I personally don't mind in this case, as long as they aren't too often. After all, the events are only 24 hours long. They switch daily and I have so far seen only one of the alternate history ones, so I have no problem with that. Especially since I do have some interest in testing planes against each other that have not actually fought each other and see how it would turn out. So having an event like that every now and then is okay, I would say. Also, this is the first time for me flying the P-51D in simulator battle mode, which isn't surprising since I just started with simulator battles. Pretty much all the planes I fly in simulator battle now I fly for the first time in this mode. Unsurprisingly, a really nice plane. I like the speed and the great visibility from the bubble cockpit. Also, the lead computing gun sight is quite nice. I was surprised about that. First of all, I was not aware that those lead computing gun sights are implemented in the game. I don't think they always were, if I recall correct. And before trying it, I also kind of assumed that this kind of gun sight would more annoy me than actually help me, but as it turns out, I consider them quite useful, especially in deflection shots. Now, I don't think you can set the range on them yet, though they might just use the range from your gun convergent, though I'm not sure about that. But I don't think changing the range on the sight in a turn fight would be all that practical anyway. Now, the second event that I flew other than the Berlin event was the Mozdok-Malgobek defensive operation, in which I tried a few different planes. From that event I'm gonna show you a round in the LA-5 later, but before that a few small things I wanted to mention real quick. Now, in the last video I shortly mentioned the spotting in simulator battle, and on Reddit someone linked a thread in the simulator battle forum showing a possible solution or at least an improvement of the problem. Almost a year ago a conceptual video was posted there that showed how sun reflections would improve the situation. Now, I was quite impressed with this little concept video and I thought I mention it here and also post a link to it in the video description, so if you have not seen it yet you can check it out. Now, I know this video is already almost a year old, but maybe if more people show interest in it, something like that will be implemented in Warthunder in the future, and I think that would be a very nice addition. As I've said in my last video, I still hope that with so many people playing tanks in simulator mode, there will also be more interest in planes in simulator battle mode, and we see upgrades to this game mode more frequently as a result. And speaking of things that might need some upgrades or adjustment, I was asked a few times last time about my opinion about bombers in simulator battle. Now again, I don't have the experience yet with simulator battles to give much of an educated opinion yet, but a few preliminary thoughts on the subject. Now, bombers seem to have an issue in other game modes as well, and in the last realistic battle maps that I have played I also noticed that B-17s, for example, or G-8 bombers often have as many or more air kills than fighters, and that a lot of fighters are more afraid of attacking a bomber than another fighter. Now, the problem is, in my opinion, that those large bomber aircraft represent a class of airplane that is very hard to implement realistically in a game like Warthunder as a player-controlled plane. Heavy and medium bombers were of course meant to fly in larger formations, covering each other with their defensive armament, and usually with fighter cover on top of that. And in a random battle in Warthunder this is just rarely going to happen. Most bombers fly around alone, and in reality a lone bomber was a very easy target for a fighter and would often not survive very long. And I assume that is the reason why bombers get somewhat unrealistic and bullet spongy damage models, as well as very accurate AI gunners, to increase their survivability when flying alone, as this is what most players in Warthunder will do with them. And I guess that is okay for balancing reasons in arcade, and maybe in realistic. But the thing is, in simulator battles, in my opinion, realism should come first. And I think all the planes, the fighters as well as the bombers, should get a realistic damage model, or as close to the realistic thing as you can manage. And if that makes flying a P-17 around solo harder and you have to squad up to use those planes properly, I think that's just the way it has to be. And the fact that AI gunners are as good as they are and that there is no proper gunner view yet in simulator battles does not help either. But that is again things that I hope will change and improve faster as more people play simulator battles. Proper gunner views would be a great thing to have and help the situation a lot, I think. Well, that's my thoughts on that. Let's take a look at the fight during the Mozdok-Malgobek event. Here I'm flying a LA-5, also a plane that I have not flown in a very long time, but one I thought performed very well when I flew it in the simulator battle event for the first time. It's fast and reasonably maneuverable, though the wing loading is a little higher than I personally like, but that is true for most higher tier planes. It rolls very well though. And it's well armed with its two 20mm cannons in the nose. You have to be careful about the recoil though, because they are mounted on top of the nose gets pushed up quite a bit when you fire them. Now here I approached the objective from the side and I could spot two planes. One was moving to the left and the other one to the right, and I assumed that one was friendly and the other enemy. And I followed the one that was moving to the right, hoping that it is an enemy plane. As I got closer I could see that it is in fact a P-51 and I tried to sneak up on him in his blind spot. But a second LA-5 is also on him and he is on higher altitude than me and faster, and in a better position to attack. And I can spot another plane in front of me in the distance, the one that was moving away to the left at the beginning I assume, and I figure it would be a bad idea if we both follow the 109 if that plane in the distance is enemy, as it would give this guy an opportunity to get on the tail of the both of us, so I decide to fly towards the distant plane and check out what it is. But as this plane passes below me, it looks from the paint job like a friendly plane, so I turn around and see what is happening with the 109 from earlier. I can see two planes diving, and I assume the one in front is the 109 diving away from the LA-5. So I split S as they come towards me and try to go after the 109. I almost overspeed in the process, but that at least gives me enough speed to go after the 109, which makes a pass on another LA-5 I have not spotted before. The LA-5 turns out of the way and I am now on the 109's tail with a slight speed advantage. I'm not sure if he knows that I'm there until I open fire, and I got a good hit in the first pass and the 109 dives. Now I fire a second burst to make sure he goes down, and that takes his wing off. So my first kill in the LA-5 in simulator battle mode, and I use my speed to climb away from the objective to get some altitude and some distance from the action. My plan is to circle the objective in a wide climbing turn and hopefully spot another enemy in the process. It does take a bit of practice to keep planes on longer distance apart from AA fire, but the AA clouds are of course also an indication that planes are in the area. Though in this case friendly and enemy AA is too close together to reliably tell if a plane is friendly or enemy by that. I also take a slight hit from AA, which scared me at first, as I thought for a second that it might be a plane, but if a plane fires on you, you usually hear the sound of the guns as well as the impact. Now as I look back again I see two planes and I turn to check what it is. I assume it is an enemy and a friendly plane fighting each other and I might be able to sneak up on the enemy. But as I turn I can see one of them coming towards me and it looks like a 109, so I press the nose down a bit while turning to await the possible attack and then turn after him, and it is indeed a 109F. The 109 keeps turning for a little bit, but then as I get closer straightens out and continues straight and starts to climb, and I go after the 109. Now I am not sure if he can see me at this point, as I am lower and behind him, so I might be in his blind spot. He does know of course that I am somewhere in the area, because he passed me just now, but I hoped he might have lost track of me and decided to follow him on lower altitude, hoping to get slowly closer when he maneuvers and eventually sneak up in fire position. Now, this is a bit of a risk. If he can see me, he has the altitude advantage and he can use that to go on the offensive, but I decide to take the risk. He is pretty far away at this point, but he goes in a slight turn, and I'm fairly sure that if he hasn't seen me earlier, he does see me now, and I think he is about to come down on my tail. I am pretty slow from climbing after him, and he can build up speed from coming down from higher altitude, so my plan is to press the nose down and pick up some speed. He will still be faster than me, but I hope he will be so fast that I can pull out of the dive, and he will end up below me because he can't pull out of the dive as fast at his higher speed. And he does come out below me, and I roll around to turn into him, and we end up in scissors. I misjudge how fast he can come around, and he gets an opportunity to fire. That was my mistake. I could have avoided that by coming around faster and adding some more rudder to move out of his line of sight. Now a Yak 1 has joined the fight, and the 109 does the sensible thing and tries to escape, and he dives away to the ground, with me and the Yak 1 in pursuit. I hope we might be able to catch up to him in time, but the 109 is at the moment too fast for that. He starts to climb again, and I try to keep up. Now the 109 of course climbs faster, but in a slight zoom climb I might be able to stay with him, at least for a while. But he rolls inverted again and dives towards the ground again, and I hope that this would give me the opportunity to close to firing range. But after we level out again and continue the chase, he is still just a bit out of range, and my engine is getting pretty hot, so I can't web a lot. Eventually the Yak 1 gets a little closer than I am, and the P-51 starts to use smoke trailers. Now I am new to simulator battles, so I am not 100% sure why, but I assume this is to make it easier for his teammates to find him and help him, and I don't want to be caught by another 109 while both me and the Yak chase this one, so I decide to pull up and to the side a bit to fly top cover for the Yak while he chases the 109. But we get dangerously close to the enemy airfield, so I decide to break off and move back to the objective, as I don't want to mess with the airfield AA at this point. The Yak keeps chasing and eventually gets the 109, but in turn gets shot down by the AA. That leaves 4 planes in the match, 2 on our side and 2 on the enemy's side, and I can spot 2 planes when I move back towards the objective. The 2 planes seem to be fighting each other, so one of them is friendly, and I move closer to lend a hand. Now I can see one of them dive away while the other stays on slightly higher altitude. I am not sure at this point which one is enemy, however it of course makes sense to go for the higher target first. If it is not the enemy plane, then we are at least above the opponent. But when I get close enough I can see that it is indeed an enemy plane, a 109, and it does not seem he has seen me yet. It seems he is diving on the friendly plane again, which turns out to be a Yak 7, and I follow the 109. The 109 pulls out of his dive after his pass on the Yak 7 and continues straight a bit, and then he starts to climb again. But this time I'm definitely faster than he is, and I get slowly closer while he is climbing. Again, I hope he has not seen me, since I am again in what I assume is his blind spot, below and behind his plane, and I am almost close enough to effectively open fire. But as I am almost in position, he starts evasive maneuvers. I try to hit him while he does that, but my shots are not well aimed, and I don't think I hit the mark while he does what I assume is a Hartmann roll. However, his defensive maneuver has cost him a bit of speed and altitude, and I can get closer to him and chase after him after he levels out while we are at very low altitude. So this turns into a nice low-level chase, and I try to hit him while he evades, while we both fly over the treetops. In my excitement, I lean a bit forward, and that causes my head to be lower than normal, so I can barely see the crosshair of my gun sight, and even though some of my shots get close, none of them connect for a while. The Yak 7 has joined the chase as well by now, and after we leave the wooded area we fly over right now and approach a small airfield, the 109's defensive flying gets a bit less violent, and I finally figure out that I should raise my head a bit to see my gun sight better. And over the airfield the 109 holds still long enough for me to get the quad burst into him. I get a critical hit on his wing, and he spins on too low altitude to recover. So that leaves only one enemy plane alive on the enemy team, which we need to find, and I assume it is another 109. The Yak-7 meanwhile announces that he will return to base to rearm, and in a situation like that, it is of course a good idea to stick together, and of course my ammo is getting a bit low as well, and I have taken at least light damage earlier, so a trip back to the airfield sounds like a good idea. So both me and the Yak return to base to rearm and repair. This is my first landing in an LA-5 in a very long time, and I almost stole a plane in front of the runway, which would have been pretty embarrassing, but luckily I only almost stall and make a safe, if not the most pretty landing. The rest of the match is not that eventful. We return to the objective and the 109 attacks the Yak-7 while I am above the Yak and I can get on his tail. The Yak-7 joins me shortly after and the 109 6, and we both try to get hits on somewhat long range. My shots get close but don't connect, but the Yak-7 gets good hit on the 109 and the control surface falls off, which eventually makes the 109 spin and the pilot jumps out. Well, and that's it for this video. As always, I hope it was entertaining, thanks for watching and maybe I'll see you next time.